you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. The beauty of going last is most, if not all, the points I was going to make have been made by others, and those that won't are in the written testimony that I provided you, actually on both bills, 5192 and 5193. There are just a couple of points that I'd like to make. I promised you last night that I would be speaking frequently this session about the cost involved every time this body creates a new crime or increases a sentence, as is the case with 593, that there are costs involved that ripple through every component of the criminal justice system, corrections to the courts, probation, parole, prosecution, and also public defense. And so when you look at that, and it's really encouraging to hear so many folks tonight starting to recognize and talk about those things. I don't think I've heard it talked about this much in all the years that I've been coming up here. It's really encouraging that people want to look at these things, and I'll use the word holistically, to say, what is the cost of this, and is it effective? Will it advance public safety? And I think it's crystal clear from what you've heard that neither of these bills will enhance public safety, because both of them deal with activities that under the disorderly conduct statute are already criminalized. Mandatory minimums, there was some discussion about that. One of the great things I think about, there's a lot of bad things, but there are a lot of good things too, about our criminal justice system in Rhode Island is that in comparison to other states, we appoint our judges for life. We have a thorough vetting process that they go through, and we do that for a reason. We do that so that they have a lot of autonomy. They can make difficult decisions in difficult cases. And when you look at that system as opposed to a system where we elect our judges, thankfully we don't have that. Having mandatory minimums goes against that idea that a judge ought to fashion a sentence based upon the individual defendant and the individual facts and circumstances of the case. Finally, I'll bring up a point that Representative Costa brought up and Professor Horowitz started struggling with. And hard to believe I've been around longer than he has, so I can tell you that if the factual scenario that Representative Costa put out there about an ambulance, if that had happened under our existing law, those protesters could be charged with misdemeanor, what's called misdemeanor manslaughter. Now we have felony murder, which is a death occurring in the course of a felony. Someone robs a bank and shoots someone during that, they're on the hook for murder, even though they didn't intentionally do that. Misdemeanor manslaughter is something that is rare, but we have a history of it in Rhode Island. Most recently, the station fire case in West Warwick. The individuals that were prosecuted in that case, my understanding is, were prosecuted for misdemeanor manslaughter. They did things in connection with that club. They didn't have proper safety equipment, etc. And that was how they were prosecuted. The case that Representative Filippi, I think, and perhaps you, Chairman, were thinking about was the case you read at law school, the nightclub in Boston where they put the chains on the door and there was a fire and a lot of people died. That was a misdemeanor manslaughter case. So the point being that we have things under the existing law to deal with this issue. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, especially misdemeanor manslaughter, what are the sentencing guidelines?
Well, Rhode Island doesn't have a whole lot of sentencing guidelines. We have benchmarks, which are suggested sentences.
Is there a prescribed penalty?
The penalties are prescribed by the legislature in saying they can say what the maximum sentence is, and they can set a bottom sentence, like no more than 5 or up to.
And that's all I'm asking right now.
Yes.
What are those penalties?
Manslaughter in Rhode Island, I believe, is a 20-year maximum sentence.
Misdemeanor manslaughter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, that's going to conclude testimony.